11. Black celebrities who are richest but rotting in prison. They had the money, they had the fame, they had the world watching. But today their lives are measured not in platinum plaques or sold-out arenas, only in prison sentences and passing years behind bars. These are black celebrities who once lived like kings, earning millions, shaping culture and rewriting history, before one decision changed everything. This isn't gossip. This is documented downfall. In this video, we uncover how power, wealth, and unchecked choices led to confinement instead of freedom. Watch closely, think deeply, and tell us, can greatness survive prison? Subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for stories they don't want you to forget. Suge Knight. Suge Knight's story is one of the most dramatic power reversals in modern American music history. In the early 1990s, Knight emerged as a towering force behind Death Row Records, a label that did more than sell albums. It reshaped hip-hop's sound business model and cultural authority. With artists like Tupac Shakur, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg under his banner, Death Row dominated charts and airwaves, generating an estimated $750 million in revenue during its peak years. Knight wasn't merely an executive. He was a symbol of raw control in an industry that had rarely seen a black-owned label exert such dominance. At the height of his influence, Knight lived lavishly. Private jets, armored vehicles, multi-million-dollar homes, and celebrity-filled parties were part of his daily reality. Yet his reputation was always shadowed by intimidation tactics, lawsuits, and violent allegations. While much of this behavior was dismissed at the time as part of a ruthless business persona, it quietly laid the groundwork for a collapse that would eventually erase everything he built. At what point do you think power stops being protection and starts becoming a trap? That turning point arrived on January 29, 2015. During a confrontation near the set of Straight Outta Compton in Compton, California, Knight drove his truck into two men. One of them, Terry Carter, was killed instantly. The incident stunned the entertainment world not because Knight was involved in conflict, but because this time there was no escape through money lawyers or fear. In 2018, Knight pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 28 years in prison, enhanced under California's 3 strikes law. He will not be eligible for parole until 2034, when he will be nearly 70 years old. Prison stripped Knight of the authority that once defined him. Incarcerated in a high-security facility, he has suffered from serious health problems, including blood clots and vision issues. Gone are the entourages and control rooms. His world is now confined to concrete walls, regulated phone calls, and long hours of isolation. The empire he once commanded collapsed entirely. Death Row Records was sold, its catalog licensed by others, its legacy detached from its founder. Today, Suge Knight exists more as a cautionary figure than a mogul. His name is no longer synonymous with innovation or dominance, but with lost potential and irreversible decisions. Wealth could not shield him from accountability, and influence could not undo one fatal moment. His story forces a difficult reflection. When success is built without restraint, does it eventually self-destruct? Kid Creole. Kid Creole's life represents one of the most painful contrasts in hip-hop history. A man who helped create a global cultural movement only to see his legacy end inside a prison cell. Born Nathaniel Glover Jr. Kid Creole rose to prominence in the late 1970s as a key member of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, a group widely credited with transforming rap from street expression into recorded art. Their groundbreaking track, The Message, did more than entertain. It exposed poverty, violence, and systemic struggle in America with an honesty few artists had dared to attempt. During the group's peak, Kid Creole toured internationally, recorded influential albums, and earned steady income through performances and royalties. While he never accumulated the massive fortunes of later rap stars, industry estimates place his lifetime earnings in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, a respectable sum for an early hip-hop pioneer from an era when contracts heavily favored record labels. In 2007, the group was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, cementing Kid Creole's place in music history. Yet fame did not translate into long-term security. As hip-hop evolved, Kid Creole's visibility faded. By the 2000s, he was no longer living in luxury or spotlight. He worked low-profile jobs, including security and small music-related work, quietly navigating life far removed from his legendary past. Everything changed on August 1, 2017 in Manhattan. While walking through the streets at night, Kid Creole became involved in a confrontation with a homeless man, John Jolly. What began as a brief encounter escalated into violence. Kid Creole stabbed Jolly, who later died from the wound. Arrested the following day, he claimed self-defense, stating he feared for his safety. However, prosecutors argued that his response was excessive and unnecessary. In 2022, Kid Creole was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and sentenced to 16 years in New York State prison. The verdict shocked fans who remembered him as a soft-spoken artist tied to socially conscious music rather than brutality. At over 60 years old, he entered the prison system as an aging inmate, facing deteriorating health and limited protection. Incarceration erased any remaining chance of a musical revival. Unlike younger artists, who record from behind bars, Kid Creole's era, age, and circumstances leave him largely disconnected from the industry he helped build. His days are now defined by routine isolation and reflection, not stages or studio sessions. Kid Creole's story is not one of unchecked wealth or excess, but of legacy lost through a single irreversible act. It stands as a sobering reminder that even pioneers are not immune to consequences and that history can be both honored and erased in the same lifetime. R. Kelly. For more than 2 decades, R. Kelly stood as one of the most commercially successful figures in modern R&B. Emerging in the early 1990s, he built a career defined by chart dominance, songwriting versatility, and business control. His catalog includes dozens of hit singles, multi-platinum albums, and an estimated 75 million records sold worldwide. At his financial peak, industry analysts placed his net worth at over $100 million, fueled by touring publishing rights production credits and licensing deals that generated millions annually. Kelly's influence extended beyond his own voice. He wrote and produced for major artists, scored film soundtracks, and positioned himself as a gatekeeper in the R&B world. His success created an image of untouchable power, one reinforced by sold-out arenas, luxury properties, and a loyal fan base that followed him across generations. For years, his public persona overshadowed persistent rumors circulating quietly in the background. When success lasts that long, does fame begin to silence warning signs people choose not to hear? By the early 2000s, allegations of sexual misconduct involving minors began surfacing more aggressively. Although earlier cases ended without convictions, the accusations did not disappear. Instead, they accumulated. Investigations intensified in the late 2010s, revealing a pattern of manipulation, coercion, and abuse, supported by testimony from multiple victims. What once seemed like whispers turned into a federal case of historic scale. In 2021, R. Kelly was convicted in New York on charges including racketeering and sex trafficking. The following year, he received a 30-year federal prison sentence. Additional convictions in Chicago resulted in 20 more years served concurrently, bringing his effective sentence to 31 years. He is currently incarcerated at a federal correctional institution in North Carolina under strict conditions, including limited contact with other inmates due to safety concerns. Financially, the collapse was immediate. Music releases were halted, royalties redirected through legal proceedings, and assets tied up in restitution claims. Once capable of earning millions per year, Kelly now has no control over his catalog or business interests. Attempts to release music from prison were blocked by distributors, further sealing the end of his professional life. Behind bars, Kelly's reality is defined by isolation, declining health, and ongoing appeals. The man once celebrated for romantic anthems now spends his days removed from the industry he dominated. His story is not simply about talent lost, but about power abused and consequences finally enforced. Kelly's downfall remains one of the most severe in entertainment history, proof that commercial success does not exempt anyone from accountability, and that silence, when prolonged, can cause lasting harm far beyond the spotlight. C Murder. C Murder's rise and collapse represent one of hip-hop's most enduring legal tragedies, a career that peaked during the genre's commercial explosion, then vanished into permanent confinement. Born Corey Miller in New Orleans, he emerged in the late 1990s as a central figure within No Limit Records, the influential label led by his brother Master P. Unlike many of his peers, C Murder's image leaned into raw street realism, reflecting the violence and tension of Southern urban life with unapologetic intensity. His debut album, Life or Death, debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and was certified gold, selling over 500,000 copies. Follow-up projects also performed strongly, generating millions in record sales, touring revenue, and merchandise. At his financial height, industry estimates placed his earnings near $1 million, a significant figure for a Southern rapper before the streaming era. His success solidified No Limit's dominance and made C Murder a recognizable voice in late 1990s hip-hop culture. Yet the same authenticity that fueled his appeal also tied him closely to environments he never fully escaped. On January 11, 2002, a nightclub altercation in Harvey, Louisiana, changed everything. During a chaotic fight, 16-year-old Steve Thomas was shot and killed. C Murder was present at the scene and soon charged with second-degree murder. The case relied heavily on eyewitness testimony that later became the center of controversy. In 2003, C Murder was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Appeals followed, citing prosecutorial misconduct, coerced witnesses, and unreliable statements. His conviction was overturned in 2006, briefly reigniting hope. However, a retrial in 2009 ended with the same verdict: life imprisonment. Since then, numerous artists, legal advocates, and fans have questioned the fairness of the trial, but courts have repeatedly upheld the sentence. C Murder is incarcerated at the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, one of America's most severe correctional facilities. Life there is defined by rigid routine, limited movement, and long-term isolation. Despite this, he has maintained creative expression, recording music through monitored phone calls and releasing projects that keep his voice alive outside prison walls. His lyrics now reflect confinement, endurance, and unresolved injustice rather than ambition. Financially, everything he once built is out of reach. Royalties are minimal, touring is impossible, and ownership stakes vanished long ago. Fame offers no privilege behind bars. What remains is time measured in decades with no legal pathway to release. C Murder's story continues to divide audiences. Some see a convicted killer facing deserved punishment. Others view him as a casualty of a deeply flawed system. Either way, his fate underscores a brutal truth: in hip-hop, success can be instant, but consequences can last forever. Big Lurch. Big Lurch's descent from underground, promise to permanent incarceration, stands as one of the most disturbing cases in hip-hop history, not because of fame squandered, but because of a life completely overtaken by addiction and violence. Born Antron Singleton in Texas and raised in California, Big Lurch carved a name for himself in the late 1990s West Coast underground scene. Affiliated with the Cosmic Slop Shop Collective, he built modest momentum through gritty mixtapes, club performances, and production work that reflected raw street realism rather than commercial polish. While he never reached mainstream stardom, Big Lurch was earning a steady living through independent releases, local touring, and collaborations. Industry observers estimate his earnings in the early 2000s at several $100,000, with growing attention from regional labels. Unlike corporate-backed rappers, his success relied heavily on personal hustle studio time paid in cash, self-promoted shows, and word-of-mouth credibility. To those watching closely, his future looked cautiously promising. That trajectory ended on April 10, 2002. Under the influence of phencyclidine PCP, Big Lurch brutally attacked his roommate Tanisha Isaacs, stabbing her to death and committing acts so violent they shocked even seasoned investigators. When police arrived, the scene was described as horrifying. Lurch claimed he had no memory of the attack and argued drug-induced psychosis, but prosecutors rejected insanity defenses emphasizing prior drug use and awareness. Should severe addiction ever change how the justice system measures intent and responsibility? In 2003, Big Lurch was convicted of first-degree murder torture and aggravated mayhem. He received 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring he will never be released. He was sent to Kern Valley State Prison in California, a high-security facility reserved for the most dangerous offenders. There, his crime isolated him not only from society but from other inmates. He has spent significant time in segregation due to safety concerns. Behind bars, Big Lurch has no access to music production performance or meaningful rehabilitation beyond limited counseling. Unlike other incarcerated artists who maintain creative outlets, his notoriety and sentence restrict nearly all public engagement. Reports indicate long-term psychological deterioration compounded by isolation and irreversible regret. Any potential career he once had exists only in memory. Financially, everything vanished. Independent earnings stopped instantly, recordings lost relevance, and no catalog remained to generate royalties. Fame, already limited, offered zero protection once the prison gates closed. His name is now associated solely with tragedy rather than talent. Big Lurch's story is not a tale of corrupted wealth or celebrity excess. It is a stark warning about untreated addiction, personal accountability, and irreversible decisions. Where opportunity once existed, only confinement remains proof that some falls leave no path back, no matter how early the promise once appeared. Max B. Max B's story is one of unrealized brilliance interrupted by a single criminal decision, an arc that still divides hip-hop fans years later. Born Charlie Wingate, Max B emerged in the mid-2000s New York rap scene with a sound that felt effortless, melodic, and emotionally loose. His self-coined wavy style influenced an entire generation of artists long before streaming culture rewarded that kind of vulnerability. Through mixtapes like Public Domain and $1 Million Baby, Max B built momentum independently, earning strong street credibility and steady income from performances and underground distribution. At his peak, Max B was generating an estimated $200,000, $500,000 per year, a notable figure for a mixtape artist outside the major label system. His collaborations with Jim Jones and later support from French Montana kept his name circulating in industry conversations. Though he never enjoyed mainstream luxury, he was positioned for a commercial breakthrough, one that seemed inevitable as his influence spread quietly but persistently. That future collapsed in September 2006. Prosecutors alleged that Max B orchestrated an armed robbery at a Fort Lee, New Jersey hotel involving associates, a crime that resulted in the death of one victim. Although Max B was not physically present at the scene, the court found him responsible under conspiracy laws. In 2009, he was convicted of robbery conspiracy and felony murder, receiving a devastating 75-year prison sentence, a punishment that shocked the hip-hop community and ignited debate about proportional justice. After years of appeals, his sentence was reduced in 2016 to 20 years, offering the first glimpse of possible freedom. He has since been incarcerated at East Jersey State Prison, where conditions are harsh and opportunities limited. Despite confinement, Max B refused to disappear. Through monitored phone calls, he continued recording verses, releasing music, and maintaining relevance in a culture that rarely waits for incarcerated artists. His resilience turned him into a symbol of endurance rather than defeat. Financially, prison erased nearly all earning power. Touring ended overnight. Ownership disputes and legal costs consumed any remaining income. What remains of his catalog circulates digitally, but profits are modest and heavily restricted. Still, his influence survives. Many younger rappers openly credit Max B as a blueprint for melodic rap long before it became mainstream. As of now, Max B is expected to be eligible for release in the mid to late 2020s, a rare outcome among the figures in this series. Whether the industry will welcome him back remains uncertain. The culture has changed, audiences have shifted, and time does not pause for talent alone. Max B's story is neither a simple tragedy nor a redemption arc yet written. It is a reminder that potential, once interrupted, must fight harder than ever to be reborn, and that freedom, when delayed, reshapes everything it touches. Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez's rise was built on versatility, independence, and relentless output. Born Daystar Peterson, he broke through the crowded hip-hop landscape by blending rap melody and R&B with a work ethic few could match. Projects like I Told You and the Chixtape series showcased range and nostalgia-driven creativity, helping him build a loyal fan base without fully relying on industry gatekeepers. By the late 2010s, Lanez was headlining tours, earning millions from streaming live shows and brand partnerships. At his peak, financial estimates placed his net worth around $6 million, the result of years of consistent releases and entrepreneurial control. His momentum, however, came with volatility. Lanez was known for intense relationships, emotional impulsiveness, and a public persona that often blurred personal conflict with artistic bravado. That instability reached a breaking point on July 12, 2020, following a party in Los Angeles. An argument escalated and Megan Thee Stallion was shot in the foot. The incident instantly shifted Lanez's image from rising star to central figure in one of the most polarizing cases in modern music culture. When fame collides with ego in a private moment, should the consequences be judged only in court or also by public trust? After years of investigation and trial, Lanez was convicted in 2023 on multiple felony counts, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm and illegal gun possession. He was sentenced to 10 years in California State Prison, a punishment that effectively halted his career at age 31. For an artist whose success depended on constant engagement and touring, incarceration became a professional death sentence. Prison life has been physically and psychologically brutal. In 2025, Lanez survived a violent stabbing inside the facility, sustaining multiple wounds that required emergency medical care. The attack highlighted the dangers faced by high-profile inmates and further isolated him from the outside world. Despite this, Lanez has continued recording music through monitored phone calls and limited channels, releasing material that reflects confinement, regret, and defiance. While some fans remain supportive, industry partnerships have vanished, and mainstream platforms keep their distance. Financially, the contrast is stark. Before prison, Lanez reportedly earned $50,000, $100,000 per performance. Behind bars, income is minimal, legal expenses are ongoing, and future earning potential is uncertain. Ownership of past work offers limited relief when reputation is damaged, and touring is impossible. Even if his sentence is reduced slightly, time away from the public eye has already reshaped his standing. Tory Lanez's story is not merely about a criminal conviction. It is about how quickly success can collapse when judgment fails. His talent remains undeniable to many, but trust once broken is far harder to rebuild. Whether the music world allows him a second act after prison remains unanswered. What is certain is that one night erased years of progress, proving that fame magnifies mistakes as loudly as it amplifies success. Young Thug. Young Thug's rise was nothing short of revolutionary. Born Jeffrey Lamar Williams in Atlanta, he didn't simply enter hip-hop, he disrupted it. With an elastic voice, fearless fashion choices, and a genre-bending sound, Young Thug rewrote the rules of modern rap in the 2010s. Albums like So Much Fun and Punk topped the Billboard charts, while billions of streams turned him into a global force. By his early 30s, industry estimates placed his net worth at around $10 million generated from music sales, touring, fashion ventures, and his own label imprint. Beyond personal success, Young Thug became a kingmaker. Through Young Stoner Life YSL, he helped launch or accelerate careers of artists such as Gunna and Lil Baby, reshaping Atlanta's musical ecosystem. His influence extended into fashion, where his gender-fluid style challenged long-held norms, earning him both praise and criticism. To fans, he was a visionary. To detractors, unpredictable and controversial. Either way, he was impossible to ignore. That question became unavoidable in May 2022 when Young Thug was arrested in Georgia as part of a sweeping RICO racketeering indictment targeting alleged gang activity connected to YSL. Prosecutors accused him of being more than an artist or executive, claiming leadership involvement in criminal operations. The arrest sent shockwaves through the industry. Tours were canceled, releases stalled, and a once unstoppable brand froze overnight. After prolonged legal proceedings, Young Thug ultimately accepted a plea deal in 2024, receiving a 5-year prison sentence, dramatically reduced from a potential decades-long term, followed by 15 years of strict probation. While the deal spared him a life-ending sentence, it came at a heavy cost. Incarceration removed him from the creative world that thrived on his constant output and presence. Prison life has been a stark contrast to his former existence. Confined within a Georgia state facility known for harsh conditions, Young Thug faces isolation, limited communication, and the daily pressure of survival behind bars. Reports indicate he has enrolled in rehabilitation and educational programs, attempting to focus on self-improvement while navigating the mental toll of confinement. Music, once his primary language, is now restricted to writing and fragmented communication with his team. Financially, his empire remains fragile. While past catalogs continue to stream, future earnings depend heavily on public perception and legal compliance once released. Major brand partnerships and collaborations have distanced themselves, wary of reputational risk. Even with loyal fans standing by him, the industry's memory is short and competition relentless. Young Thug's story is not yet finished, but it has been permanently altered. His fall underscores a hard truth about fame. Influence amplifies both success and scrutiny. Whether he reclaims his place as a creative leader or becomes a cautionary chapter in hip-hop history will depend on choices still ahead. For now, his legacy hangs in suspension, caught between innovation, accountability, and the unforgiving passage of time. Pooh Shiesty. Pooh Shiesty's ascent was swift, loud, and emblematic of a new Memphis sound that blended menace with commercial polish. Born Lontrell Donnell Williams Jr., he broke through in 2020 with a gritty delivery that felt authentic rather than manufactured. His breakout single, Back in Blood, followed by the debut project, Shiesty Season, pushed him into the mainstream almost overnight. The album debuted high on the Billboard chart streams, climbed into the hundreds of millions, and lucrative partnerships followed. At his peak, industry estimates placed his net worth near $5 million, fueled by label advances, touring fees, merchandise, and brand visibility under Gucci Mane's 1017 Records. Unlike artists who took years to build momentum, Pooh Shiesty's success arrived before restraint had time to mature. Fame magnified a street image that resonated with fans, but also attracted scrutiny from law enforcement. While his music thrived, his personal decisions moved in the opposite direction. The lifestyle that inspired his lyrics became inseparable from real-world consequences, collapsing the boundary between performance and reality. When an artist becomes famous for authenticity, should the line between image and action ever disappear? That question crystallized in October 2020, when Pooh Shiesty became involved in a shooting during an attempted drug-related robbery at a hotel in Florida. Although the victim survived, evidence linked Shiesty to the incident through surveillance footage and shell casings. Federal prosecutors later added gun-related charges connected to separate incidents, framing a pattern rather than an isolated mistake. Facing overwhelming evidence, Richest pleaded guilty in 2022 to conspiracy to possess a firearm in furtherance of violent crime. The sentence was decisive: 5 years in federal prison, followed by supervised release. For a rapper whose career depended on momentum and visibility, incarceration hit like a full stop. He was transferred to a medium-security federal facility where daily life revolves around strict routine, limited movement, and constant monitoring. Gone are the late-night studio sessions and roaring crowds. In their place are regimented schedules and silence. Financially, the contrast is stark. Before prison, Richest reportedly earned 6 figures per show with growing demand across major U.S. cities. Behind bars, income is minimal and legal costs have consumed much of what he once accumulated. While his catalog continues to stream, royalties are a fraction of what touring once produced. Industry connections have cooled and future endorsements remain uncertain. Still, Richest has not completely vanished. He participates in prison work programs, maintains physical fitness, and continues writing music on paper, hoping to return with discipline rather than chaos. Loyal fans remain vocal online, viewing his sentence as a pause rather than an ending. Whether the industry agrees is another matter. Richest's story is not about a fallen legend, but about a rising star stopped mid-flight. It highlights how quickly wealth can arrive and how easily it can be neutralized by poor judgment. His future now hinges on what he learns during confinement, because in today's music industry, talent alone is no longer enough to guarantee a second chance. Tay-K's story is one of the most unsettling examples of how viral fame can collide with irreversible consequences. Born Tamor Trayvon McIntyre in California and raised in Texas, he entered the music scene not through traditional development but through chaos. In 2017, while still a teenager, Tay-K became a national name with the song "The Race." The track exploded online, amassing hundreds of millions of streams and charting on the Billboard Hot 100, all while he was actively evading law enforcement. The irony was impossible to ignore: a young black artist becoming rich and famous for narrating the very crime he was running from. At just 16 to 17 years old, Tay-K was already earning an estimated $200,000 to $300,000 per year from streaming revenue, viral performances, and short-term music deals. Industry insiders believed he represented a new generation of rap, raw, unfiltered, and shaped by social media rather than record labels. His sudden success suggested a long, profitable career ahead. But the foundation was already cracked. The legal reality behind the music was far darker. In 2016, Tay-K participated in a home invasion robbery in Mansfield, Texas. During the crime, 21-year-old Ethan Walker was shot and killed. While on house arrest awaiting trial, Tay-K cut off his ankle monitor and fled, escalating his legal exposure. It was during this fugitive period that The Race was released, turning him into a cultural spectacle rather than just a defendant. Authorities captured Tay-K in New Jersey in June 2017. In 2019, he was convicted of capital murder and aggravated robbery. The sentence was devastating: 55 years in prison with parole eligibility only after serving at least half the term. Effectively, Tay-K will spend the majority of his adult life incarcerated. He is currently held in a high-security Texas prison where conditions are rigid and violent, especially for inmates with high public visibility. Behind bars, Tay-K's career ended as abruptly as it began. Unlike older artists who had catalogs and business structures, his music legacy is limited to a handful of viral tracks. He cannot tour record professionally or build an empire. Financially, any early earnings were consumed by legal fees, restitution, and lost opportunity. Fame, in his case, became meaningless the moment freedom disappeared. Prison life has reportedly included isolation, disciplinary issues, and the psychological toll of confinement at a young age. While some fans continue to romanticize his image online, reality offers no glamour, only decades of repetition and regret. The industry has moved on, and newer viral stars have replaced him. Tay-K's story is not a redemption arc, it is a warning. It exposes how quickly fame can elevate someone who is emotionally unprepared and legally doomed. His legacy is not one of artistic growth, but of a life paused before it truly began, proving that viral success without accountability can become a life sentence rather than a breakthrough. Kodak Black. Kodak Black's career has unfolded like a repeating cycle of brilliance and interruption. An artist whose raw talent consistently pushes him to the top, only to be pulled back down by legal trouble. Born Bill Kahan Capri, he emerged from South Florida with a voice and storytelling style that felt unfiltered and emotionally direct. Early hits and mixtapes built momentum, but mainstream success arrived with albums like Painting Pictures and Dying to Live, both of which produced charting singles and massive streaming numbers. By the early 2020s, Kodak had accumulated billions of streams worldwide and an estimated net worth of around $8 million earned through music sales, touring, fashion ventures, and endorsements. Kodak's appeal came from his honesty. He spoke openly about trauma, poverty, and survival, resonating with listeners who saw their own struggles reflected in his lyrics. That authenticity, however, also exposed a volatile personal life. Repeated arrests for weapons probation violations and other offenses followed him almost as closely as his hit records. Each legal issue paused his momentum, yet he repeatedly returned to the charts, reinforcing a belief among fans that his career was untouchable. How many second chances does fame provide before the consequences finally outweigh the talent? In 2019, Kodak was sentenced to federal prison for falsifying information on firearm purchase forms, receiving a 46-month sentence. His career seemed finished until an unexpected twist. In January 2021, then-President Donald Trump commuted his sentence, granting Kodak early release. The move shocked the public and reignited his career. Almost immediately, he returned to the studio, released new music, and regained chart presence, proving that his fan base remained intact despite controversy. But the pattern did not break. In December 2023, Kodak was arrested again, this time on drug possession and probation-related charges. Facing mounting legal pressure, he accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 3 years in prison, returning him to federal custody in Florida. Once again, freedom gave way to confinement and momentum was cut short just as he was rebuilding. Inside prison, Kodak's reality contrasts sharply with his former lifestyle. The rapper who once commanded $50,000 to $100,000 per show now spends his days in a regimented environment, working assigned duties and communicating with the outside world through monitored calls. While he continues to write music and send messages to fans, creative output is limited and commercial opportunities are non-existent. Royalties from existing work offer minimal comfort when touring, branding, and public appearances are impossible. Financially, repeated incarceration has eroded long-term stability. Legal fees, halted projects, and lost partnerships have diminished the fortune he once controlled. Unlike a single downfall, Kodak's struggle lies in recurrence, the inability to stay free long enough to build something lasting. The industry grows less forgiving with each interruption. Kodak Black's story is not yet over, but it remains uncertain. His talent has never been the question. Discipline has. Whether his next release marks a final comeback or another pause depends not on charts or fans, but on choices made far from the spotlight. His life stands as a reminder that success can reopen doors, but it cannot keep them open forever without accountability. Fame, fortune, and influence once placed these Black artists on the highest pedestals of success. They shaped culture, inspired millions, and proved that Black excellence could dominate global industries. Yet their stories also reveal a harder truth. Wealth does not cancel accountability, and talent cannot outrun consequences. Today, prison walls have replaced applause, and time, not money, is their greatest currency. Some still hold hope for redemption, while others face futures permanently sealed by their choices. So here's the real question. Were these men victims of circumstance, or did power simply expose who they truly were? Legends of Black excellence. What's your take?